Beneath New York City lies a massive labyrinth of tunnels, but according to city records, Platform 13 officially does not exist. Old transit maps from the early 1900s mark its location, yet modern maps omit it entirely. Most workers dismissed it as an urban legend. But in October 1986, a maintenance worker named Robert Hale was inspecting tunnels after a massive power outage. He noticed a rusted service door standing slightly open. Down a dark staircase, he found a perfectly preserved, dust-covered subway station frozen in time. Curious down there, Hale found an anomaly. Mounted near the tracks was a physical train schedule. It listed a departure every single night at exactly 2:13 a.m., with the final destination simply labeled end of line. Hale's curiosity regarding that schedule led him into a disappearance that remains one of New York's most persistent anomalies. Hale returned alone the following week, bringing a camera. He waited on the dark platform. At exactly 2:13 a.m., a distant rumble echoed through the tunnel. An ancient train, with completely blacked-out windows, slowly rolled into the station. The doors opened to an empty car. Hale filmed the entire arrival and stepped inside. Then the recording cut out. He was never seen again. Authorities launched an extensive search. 3 months later, they recovered his camera beside the tracks, but they found absolutely no trace of Hale or the train. Hale disappeared because he stepped onto a train that shouldn't have existed, operating on a schedule for passengers who were never intended to return. The case faded into obscurity until 2027, when urban explorer Jason Mercer and his crew located that same hidden service door. Armed with livestream equipment, they breached the tunnel and walked right on to Platform 13. The platform looked exactly as Hale described, yet fellow explorer Emma Collins noticed something off. Resting on a dusty bench was a newspaper dated October 14, 1928. It wasn't yellowed or crumbling. It looked as fresh as if it had been delivered that morning. Someone, or something, was actively maintaining the station. At 2:13 a.m., heavy vibrations shook the tunnel. The ancient train emerged from the darkness. But this time, the cars weren't empty. Hundreds of motionless people sat inside, all wearing clothing from the 1920s. Jason cautiously called out to them. Nobody blinked, nobody spoke. Then, in complete silence, every single passenger simultaneously turned their heads to stare directly at the explorers with pitch-black eyes. The explorers were not in an abandoned space. They had walked into an active, predatory system that was already in motion. The crew sprinted into the dark maintenance tunnels. 6 hours later, police discovered Emma wandering through Midtown Manhattan barefoot and deeply confused. Jason and the third crew member were gone. For weeks, psychologists assumed trauma kept her silent. When Emma finally spoke, she delivered an impossible testimony. Platform 13 was just one single doorway to dozens of hidden, active stations sprawling beneath the city. This diagram illustrates the official layout of the New York City subway system, but according to Emma, beneath these familiar lines sits a dense network of undocumented red routes. They funnel down to one central hub, holding thousands of wandering passengers from different centuries, all waiting to meet the sign labeled Last Arrival. While moving through that crowd, Emma recognized a face. It was Robert Hale, looking exactly the same age as he did in 1986. He rushed over and shoved her toward an exit, warning her to leave right as an unnatural, screaming train approached the tracks. Emma's survival provides a chilling explanation for decades of transit disappearances. The missing victims are not dead. They are trapped, wandering a timeless, ever-expanding underground purgatory. This photograph shows typical subway excavation efforts from the 1920s. To figure out how this massive lower system got there, we must look at archived transit records for a 1927 project known as Expansion Phase 0. According to surviving records, crews didn't actually dig those lower tunnels. During excavation, they broke through a rock wall and found a pre-existing rail system, one that appeared older than the city above it. The reaction was immediate. Several engineers vanished without a trace. Construction records abruptly ended, blueprints were systematically destroyed, and Platform 13 was permanently sealed. The city government never possessed or controlled this deep transit system. They simply breached the walls, realized what was operating down there, and spent the next century trying to hide it. In 2028, An independent team armed with advanced mapping equipment tried to investigate the tunnels. Only 2 survived, both with severe psychological trauma. Under hypnosis, one investigator claimed the trains were operated by a what, not a who. Look at these empty tracks on a modern platform. Transit authorities officially deny Platform 13 exists. Yet late-night commuters still report unfamiliar trains briefly arriving in the dark, and security cameras occasionally capture passengers stepping onto active platforms, only to disappear between frames. The anomaly bleeds into the present day in other ways. Every year on October 14th, several active subway operators receive the exact same radio transmission at exactly 2:13 a.m. A distorted voice announces, "Now boarding for the end of line." The ancient cars continue to cycle through the city tunnels, and according to the few survivors, their logic is simple. The train keeps returning because it still has empty seats to fill.